let's get to the form. So I think this is the big form that we all sometimes get a little bit of headaches on. So this is the IT180 form that needs to be completed on an annual basis. So this gets completed at the end of your financial year, when you have to submit all your financials to your accountant or your auditor to get your financial statements and to work out the tax that you have to pay. We all know this tax rebates are all based on net profit before tax. So the deduction happens after the profit has been worked out and before you pay tax over. It gets deducted from your profit, and then what is left over you pay company taxes on. So it is a very nice incentive to have. Okay, so if we go through the form, you will see the IT180. The beginning is fairly easy. Your tax reference number, and then of course your year of assessment. So the year when you're actually doing your financial year. The registered name of the employer will go in here. So who is claiming this tax rebate? So to who does this tax number link up to the name of the organization? Then the L number. So important to know around the L number is that all employers can claim tax rebates, even if you have an L number or you don't have an L number. It is just placed in the legislature or on the form to link companies to the L number and to have a look at statistics around the claims on the tax rebates. So the law doesn't explicitly say anywhere that you cannot claim if you are not registered to pay skills development levies. Right. Then important, the name of the theatre with which the learnership is registered. That will be the name of the theatre of the employer, not the name of the theatre where the qualification is sitting with. Because remember, learnership's registration, internship registration, apprenticeship registration, that agreement, what we call now the work-based learning agreement, previously called learnership agreements, apprenticeship agreements, etc. Those learners get registered at the theatre of the employer that pays skills levies to. So the name is of that theatre of the employer theatre goes in there, not the name of the theatre which is performing the ETQA work on it. So always the name of where it needs to go. Then the next one talks about the particulars of the title and the code allocated by the Director General, Department of Labour, in terms of Regulation 2.3. So those of you that's been in the arena of skills development for many years will notice that this form was never updated when all of the skills development functions was taken away from the Department of Labour and given to the Department of Higher Education and Training. So this actually just means like, what is the learnership code that the Department of Labour has issued against this qualification? So what you will insert here is the name of the qualification, number one. So for example, National Certificate, Information Technology End User Computing, or National Certificate in Business Administration. And below it, you will put in the Q number, the qualification, that's learnership code. Now we come to the question is like, okay, but we can register apprentices as well, and we can also claim on interns. So anything that ends up in a qualification that is a combination of theory, practical, and workplace, we can claim on. Now, in certain cases, you don't have a Department of Labour code, and then what you do is that you put in the qualification code, the SAQA ID code, or in the case of the QCTO programs, you will put in the curriculum code in there. So that goes into those two blocks over here. Then the full name and the identity number of the learner completing the learnership agreement. So full names like on their ID, and then their ID number on the document. Okay. Then the date of which the registered learnership agreement was entered into, so the commencement date. So on the right-hand side, you will complete the day the learnership started, or the apprenticeship or the internships. And yes, the question always comes up, but you only talking here about learnerships. The law just talk about learnerships. So is it just learnerships? It is quite interesting. I was on a SARS conference where they did a 2-hour workshop on Section 12H and IT180s. And they said there that in the mind of SARS, like in the mind of a lot of individuals that doesn't work in the space, they use the word learnership very loosely and interlinking it with internships and apprenticeships. So if it follows the same behavior, so you have theory and you have workplace experience that you need to complete, and it ends up in a qualification, they see that in their mind as a learnership. So we have that clarification from SARS on that. Okay, so that is why all the forms refers to learnership. They don't really understand the difference. Okay, but like I don't understand all the tax laws either. So, much of a muchness, I assume. So the date when the learner entered. Then the next one is very important to remember. So it says the date of the completion of the registered learnership agreement. That only gets completed if the learner has completed the program during your year of assessment. So if the learner is only completing the program in your next financial year, that will be left open. Okay, why is it left open? Is because this is the only way SARS can actually work out, are you claiming start or are you claiming end? Okay, it can happen, and it does happen sometimes, that you will claim for one learner a commencement and a completion because it was a 12-month program. The learner started in month 1 of your financial year and they completed in month 12 of your financial year. So it is possible that you can do it, that it will on your first section 12H or your IT180 form, that both your commencement and completion dates will be on there and the claim will be for both. But in 90% of the cases, there's normally a rollover from a program. And with the new qualifications that is coming in from the QCTO, the occupational certificates, there's a longer time frame of that learner being on a program. So it's very important to remember that. Then the next question that the form asks you is, was the learner at the time of entering into the learnership agreement employed? So this is a very easy question. This is actually asking, is it an 18.1 learner or is it an 18.2 learner? So in other words, is it an employed learner or is it an unemployed learner? Okay, we all know the difference. So an employed learner is somebody whose contract of employment started before the learnership agreement was signed or the learner program started. And they are also, their core function in the business is not to do the learnership, but it is to do other work as well. Unemployed is somebody who signed a fixed term contract or employment contract or agreement on the same day the learnership started, and the function of that contract is for them, or their role is to complete the learnership. So, and here it's a simple yes or no. So it asks you, is the learner employed? Is it an employed learner? So all you do is you either select yes or no. Yes is 18.1, no is 18.2. Okay, right. Then it asks you if the learner was a disabled person. So once again, yes if it was disabled and no if it wasn't disabled. Okay, right. Was the learnership agreement entered into between the employer and the learner in the course of any trade carried on by that employer? Okay, so once again, yes or no. So this means two things. Number one, is this agreement, is the employer actually a functioning company? So they are active and trading? Because you can't claim on a company that is not trading. It must be a business that is actually trading. And as well, is this aligned to the core function of um, the trade of or the industry where in this employer sits? Okay, we always have to remember this is always a complex answer, because you have to remember, even if my core function is manufacturing, I still need administrative people. So can I claim if I do an administrative training course or program? Yes, you can, because you have to remember, inside of my organization, part of my trade is to have administrative people to support that. But say now, for example, I'm in manufacturing, and I put learners on animal husbandry, for example, right? I mean, uh, where does the one support the other one? Unless I don't know, unless you're growing AI. That might be, I don't know, could be. Okay, that was a little bit dark, but yeah, sorry about that one. Okay, so that is just a question, so a simple yes or no. And then, of course, the period in months of the agreement. So is it 12 months? Is it 36 months? How long is it in total? I know for the TVET placement, the TVET in the world internships for TVET colleges, that's 18 months. The legacy is all 12 months. The new occupational qualifications, they are all different. So it depends there on the period. Then the next question asks around the total remuneration as stipulated in the employment agreement. So in here, you will place the total annual remuneration. Okay, if you've only paid the person 2 months, you still work out, it works like the E, you still work out what the annual remuneration will be, because I was looking at the annual remuneration um, in that block. And it doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen, if it is more than the rebate that you're claiming or if it's less than the rebate that you are claiming. It doesn't play a factor in it at all. Okay. Then it requests you the amount of the deduction claimed. So here you have to think now, okay, am I only claiming a start, and am I claiming a start and a completion, or am I only claiming completion? Now remember, if, like Byron has mentioned, if you claim a commencement, you need to take the rebate. If it's an able person, you take the 40,000. If it's a disabled person, you take the 60,000. And you divide it by 12 to get the monthly rebate, or if it's an 18-month program, you will divide it by 18, etc., to get the monthly allowance, and then you will work it out pro rata for the commencement period. So the amount of months that learner was on the program by the end of your financial year. So it could be 3, it could be 12. Well, it can't be 18 because there's only 12 months in our financial year. Okay, so then you put in the total amount in this block, and then it asks you what is the limitations. So what is the maximum amount that you can claim? So there you will put in either 80,000 Rand for iBuild or 120 Rand, 120. I did that at the Africa conference as well. 120,000 for disabled individuals. And if it's a higher NQF level, it will either be 100 or it would be 60. Okay, so just have a look at that. So the total amount, not in the financial year that you can claim, but the total rebate that you can claim. Okay, then the questions on page 2 As the first one is around, did the above mentioned employer substitute any employer which is party to an existing registered learnership agreement? So this means, like, did you as the employer take over a learnership or apprenticeship? You do know that in certain cases, one employer have an intern. It happens quite a lot in internships. They have them for 12 months, and then the intern moves over to someone else for the last 6 months. Right. So remember, then there's a difference. So no, the person didn't start with me, or yes, they did start with me. Okay, so that is where the difference come in, because that all depends of what you are allowed to claim, commencement or completion. Right, so did the above mentioned employer entered into a learnership with the learner as a result of the substitution of existing registered learnership agreement? So meaning, is this learner now on another learnership, or is this learner again on a learnership that he has done before, or is this learner on a learnership for qualification he already have recognition for? Okay, so that's why it's always important before placing learners on learnerships, interns on internships, and apprentice on apprenticeships to check qualifications to see if they've not done a similar qualification that is already recognized, because then you cannot claim. Okay, right. Okay, so then was the deduction allowable? So was it allowable deduction? Or you registering this learner on more than one program? Is there like a parallel programs running? Because that is also not allowed according to our Skills Development Act. Then it's just the employers, like whoever has the capacity, either CEO, accountant, to fill that in, to sign it and date it. And this form will go to the accountant or the person that does your balance sheets and your annual financials, and they will use this to deduct it from your profit. Okay, so the question always is, does this get submitted to SARS? And that's quite a question that we get quite a lot. So the answer is very simple. No, this form doesn't get submitted to SARS. It becomes part of your evidence that is your file for audit purposes. And the thing is, like, okay, so why do I fill in the form? The form is there if SARS decides to come do an audit. Because you have to remember, and currently our systems are not that connected, but who knows, maybe in the future, SARS will also be connected to the National Learner Database, and they can start double checking if the learner is valid, if the learner is registered, etc., and then they can start querying it, and then they will ask for these forms. They can also come and say, listen, we want to do an audit on your section, or we want to do an audit on section 12H in your organization. Please have these forms. So the forms should be available when SARS come and do the audit, but does it need to be submitted to SARS with your tax returns or like pay as you earn? No, it doesn't need to have to, you don't need to submit it to SARS. That's the auditor wants to see this. Guys, I'm kind of lucky. My son is a chartered accountant, so we have many discussions around this, because this is the only part that I understand of the tax law. And he said that when they do an audit, it doesn't matter if they see this form or the Excel spreadsheet. They just want to see and calculate it, and they want to see the learnership agreements. So remember that they can ask, and SARS as well, when they do the audit, they will ask you for the agreements that was registered at the theatre. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the spreadsheet quickly. So what we've done is we've built a spreadsheet that kind of helps us. And the spreadsheet is very nice to use if you have, if you have 3 or 4 learners, it's actually easy to fill in a form. But now you have, for example, 60 learners, and that is quite a lot for you to handle. And then you can do the Excel spreadsheet, and you can give that to your financial accountant, and the chartered account, the auditors also accept this form of submission. So I'm just quickly going to show you basically. So very much similar to what is on the form. So here you will just put in the name. And like Byron said, is you can actually put in any of your employees. Doesn't matter their age. I keep on forgetting my mouse buttons are swapped around today. It doesn't matter of their age. It doesn't matter what their gender is. It doesn't matter what their race is, because the tax rebates are there to assist companies to implement skills development and career pathing within inside of the organization. So here you will just put in the qualification name. Very easy. Okay, the CETA registration number, or the DOEL number, or the learnership number, or the curriculum code, or whatever you want to call it. And there, over here, you will put in your NQF level of the program. So the question comes in, what do I do if it's an intern? If it's an internship, or because you're always not sure, go onto the SACA website, go have a look what they are studying towards, what NQF level that is. Okay, were they employed prior to the program? Very easy, yes or no. Do they have a disability? Yes or no. I will put in the start date. So let me just put in any date. Okay, right. I'm very far behind. Okay, end date will be 11/3/26. Okay, total months of the program is 12. And then I say, okay, cool, my current tax month in my current tax year since the learner started. So this is March. My financial year end was July. So it was March, April, May, June, July. So it's 5 months. And then this learner has not completed it yet because I'm not in my other new financial year. So I will just leave that out. And of course, just put in the total remuneration, whatever that might be. And what this sheet does for you is it works out your claim, okay, which is very nice. So it will work out your annual allowance pro rata already, depending if it's a disabled or if it's an able-bodied person, and it will also look at the months of the program and how many months the individual was in your employment during your assessment year. It will also then work out your total deduction, and it will also tell you what is the maximum deduction that you are allowed to claim. If I say, for example, here you will see I have something in here, somebody has successfully completed, and then you will see it will add the annual allowance and the completion allowance for that tax year. And that is basically the spreadsheet. I do hope that this has brought some little bit of clarity to you. I can see Rudy is back on. So Rudy, I'm handing this over back to you.
Yeah, you can stay on, Renelle, because the next part is the questions. We had 2 questions from, actually 3 questions from Etienne. Thank you, Etienne, for your questions. So the first question is, the commencement allowance is claimed over the first 12 months. Can you claim it along with your completion allowance at the completion stage? Second question is, what if a program is longer than 12 months, let's say 24 months? If you can just, I think somewhere in your content you did cover that, but if you can just respond to that first for us.
Okay, so just repeat the first question.
So yeah, can you? It's in the question and answers. It's the the commencement allowance is claimed over the first 12 months. So can you claim it along with your completion? allowance at the completion stage. And then second question is, if a program is longer than 12 months, let's say 24 months, with a lot of QCTO programs, the commencement allowance is then over 24 months. Is the completion allowance then doubled or the same?
So your tax rebate stays the same, regardless if it is a 1-year program, a 2-year program, or 3-year program. So the maximum amount that you're allowed to claim is either 120,000 or 80,000, or 60,000, depending on your NQF levels. So it is based on that, and that's the maximum. So it doesn't double. If I'm 2 years, it doesn't give me another additional 120 for a disabled person, for example. Can you claim commencement and your completion in the same year? Yes, if your commencement and your completion was in the same year. Because remember, you only, when you do the IT80 form, you only reflect on your financial year, which is that 12-month period. And I think another question that I had 2 weeks ago is like, oh my goodness, what now if I suddenly realized that I could have claimed some tax rebates because I had a learnership that started a year ago and my tax has already been done? And I'm sure, yes, because what you can do is you can send the documentation to your accountant, and I think they open your tax claim again at SARS, and they just resubmit it and then just get it adjusted. I think you can do it back to 2 or 3 years going back. And
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can move to the other question Etienne had, is why wouldn't you have an L number? This means that the learner on your learnership can only be enrolled with a qualification theatre and not registered with the client theatre, which will have an impact on the completion of IT180, is the question?
Yeah, so you will receive an L number if you pay more than $500,000 annually on a payroll. Okay, remember, then you get an L number. But remember, all entities are allowed to participate in skills development. So you can go to your theatre and which sector you are, and you can apply for what we call an X number or a non-levy paying number. And then you have exactly the same rights as a levy paying client or employer. You also have to submit a WSP and an ATR. You don't get mandatory grants. Okay, so this is a total different discussion. But you can also then claim tax rebates. You can register your learners at the theatre where you are registered with, and you can also apply for discretionary grants. This is quite a lot applicable to non-profit organizations and also some organizations that are exempt from skills levies.
Okay, thank you, Renelle. If I can then ask anybody in the audience have any more questions? Okay, so then we can wrap it up. We want to say thank you for joining us today. I want to end with this last slide. You'll see there's 2 other logos now on the last slide. And just quickly, briefly explain what you're seeing there. So who is Skilly? Well, Skilly is another platform we developed about a year ago, where you can find up-to-date skills development and employment equity acts, the regulations, good practices, and compliance document, including templates such as this one that we will, as part of our appreciation to you, attending the session will freely send you today. But you can also look at skilly.co.za, very interesting platform. You can subscribe to it or create a free account. Then we've got Skillix. So Skillix is our company's digital platform. Internally, we have gone digitally on this platform. It is a platform that brings smart skills and smart equity together in one platform. It is currently available to our clients, and we will make it available to the market for all companies and SDFs probably in the next 2 to 3 months. If you just follow us on social media, you will see the announcement as soon as we will go live with it. So yeah, to end the session, thank you so much. and we will soon be in touch. You will receive a mail also with a form just asking some questions. We can kindly ask if you can fill that out for us. And then thank you again for joining us.
Sorry, Twanita. Twanita has she just now had a question.
Ask a question, no problem.
Yes, and she said that her understanding is that you can claim 60K and 80K each year over a period of 4 years for the apprenticeships. The legislation said that is the maximum that you can claim, regardless of how long it is. So, Twanita, I'm just going to go back to just double check the legislation and clarification, and then I will come back to you on that. But as far as we know, that is the maximum amount that you can claim. That is my knowledge around it. But I'm always like, when I get questions like this, I always want to go and double check. So I will come back to you on that. Okay, perfect.
Thank you, everyone. Then we can close the session.